to the first likely unedited episode of Comfy Cam. And it's also episode 15, which means we're halfway through this exercise. And hopefully the episodes will get better. Today is going to be hopefully unedited because I have fallen ill thanks to this wonderful state. Ever since we went outside, the night that the snowplows came, we had to quickly shovel out Allison's car to move it to the other side of the road so they could plow that side. So we were very nervous, and we were out there, shoveling as hard as I could. Didn't stretch or anything beforehand, so I was grabbing these heaping piles of snow and throwing them as far as I could. And then I realized that the air was so cold that just breathing it in was hurting my throat super bad. So I kind of started to feel the pain in my stomach, and now I just feel like my stomach hurts and the muscles around my stomach hurt. So now I have a full day of work, 2 jobs, which is good because I haven't gone to work in like a week because of the stupid snow. So, in light of being sick, I figured today I'd tell you a little story about how I once was very sick. This was a while ago, so I don't remember all the details, but when I was a little boy, probably about 9 years old in 4th grade, if that checks out, I don't know. But I was playing in the snow, I think. This is how long ago it was. I don't exactly remember every detail. I think that it was snowy, but it was also like a month away from being not snowy. Because I remember playing in the snow with my cousins, and that night I went home, had a good day, very tired, so I went to bed, watched some TV, and put in a VHS, and just fell asleep to that. So I remember waking up in the middle of the night. I had a super bloody nose, which wasn't uncommon. I had like really thin blood as a child, so I was like, well, better go wash up. So I tried to roll out of bed quick, and then I realized there was a pain in my leg that was just super unbearable. I could not move without this pain hurting. So I was sitting there with blood all over myself, just laying in bed, calling for mom, just screaming, "Mom, mom, mom," over and over. And mom didn't come, very heavy sleeper. So either that or she heard me and she didn't want to come, which might be likely, mom. But anyway, I tried to move, couldn't. My legs hurt too bad. So I decided to not move my leg, but still get out of bed. So I just kind of let my leg go dead, kind of rolled my other leg over it onto the floor. And I got out on my hands and knees, or hands and knee, because I was letting my leg just go dead. And I was crawling out of the bedroom, just dragging my leg behind me because it hurt so bad. And keep in mind, I was bleeding out the nose at this point. Just got bloody hands, just like leaving a trail of blood as I crawl to my parents' room in the middle of the night. The only light in the room was from the static on the TV after the VHS ran through. So I get to my mom's room, and I finally wake her up, and she just thought it was growing pains. And I was like, I don't believe you, but what else can I do? I can't drive. So she told me to go wash up in the bathroom. I told her I couldn't. So I drug myself over there, stood up, washed the blood off me, and then I laid on the floor of her room until about maybe a half an hour, 45 minutes later. I think she realized that this wasn't growing pains. So she loaded me up in the truck. Was it a truck? I think it was a Ford Explorer. And we drove to the hospital where they did some tests on me. And I was watching Harry Potter on the TV. And the doctor comes in. He's like, all right, we got one more test for you, Tyler, and then you can go home. I'm like, sweet, this is awesome. Like, maybe they'll just give me some pills and I'll feel better in the morning. That was very far off from the truth. What actually happened was They wheeled me into this like closet. I swear, this is how I remember it. It was like a small room with no ceiling. There was just vents and stuff. In the corner there was like a wooden shelf, and next to me there's like a ultrasound machine. So I'm laying there, they're doing an ultrasound on my leg, and I was like, oh, this test ain't too bad. And all of a sudden I see the doctor spin around. He's got a freaking needle, like this long. I was like, oh god, here we go. I was very obedient at the time. I would just lay there and let them do what they had to do. And the doctor came up with this needle, and he shoved it into the side of my thigh, and I could just feel it going through each layer of muscle and stuff. And turns out what had happened is somehow I had done something to my leg, and fluid had built up against my bone. So they had to go in there with that needle and drain that fluid. It was so disgusting and so painful. It was probably the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. And people say you can't remember pain, like you don't have a memory for pain, but I swear I can feel the deep ache and agony of that needle to this day. To the point where if I had any other thing happen to my leg that sort of resembled that pain, I would freak out because I was worried that it would happen again. Anyway, I get off the gurney after that test, and I realized, like, holy crap, my leg feels instantly better. Like, it's sore, but I can walk now. Like, I can reasonably walk without it hurting too bad. So I walked out of there, and I'm just at home hanging out. That sucked. That was a bad experience, but at least it's over and I'm hanging out at home. And then I get a call from the doctors. Our mom gets a call from the doctors, and she has them talk to me. And they said, hey, Tyler, we analyzed the blood that came out of your leg when we were doing that thing, and we realized that there's something there, and you're going to have to come back and stay with us for a while. And that scared the crap out of me. I just started bawling, called my grandma, see if she would come with me. I had to go there like immediately. And we get there, and I guess it turns out I had a staph infection. So an infection in my blood. And I remember getting to the Brainerd Hospital is where I was for like the first 4 days, I think. And I remember various tests, but at this time it was hard to remember a lot of detail because the fever had set in from the staph infection to the point where I was delirious. I remember laying in my bed, my eyes closed, and hearing people like around me. And I remember someone nudging me when I was sleeping, and I said, don't kick me. My dad kicked me on the plane last night, even though I had not been on a plane the other night. And I heard people were worried. Like, people were worrying because I said something like that. And I heard my mom talk to the doctor about it, and my eyes were closed, and I knew that what I told her and what she was telling the doctors was wrong, but I had no desire to speak up and tell them that that wasn't true. It was so weird. It was so bizarre. And I remember my grandma bought me some fish for the hospital room. It was so nice. I got some Pirates of the Caribbean slippers, and I got some goldfish for my hospital room. It was very nice. And I remember they were just trying to make sure this fever wasn't going to kill me. So there'd be nights where I would lay on the bed with cold washcloths all over my body, and the only thing I'd be wearing was like my underwear because the fever was so high. They were trying to cool it as much as possible. And I just remember the face of one of the nurses. She was like sitting at the foot of the bed just like looking at me, and I was like, man, like now that I remember it, her face did not exude, oh, this kid's gonna be okay. But at the time I was just so out of it. I didn't even know that I was seriously ill until I got out of it, you know. And then they do an ultrasound on my chest just to make sure. I don't know why. And they came to the conclusion that, oops, my heart's supposed to have 4, chambers. But my heart only has 3. So they're like, this isn't good. We don't have the resources, I guess, to deal with this. So we send him off to the children's hospital in Minneapolis, St. Paul, somewhere like that. So I get there, and that place was nuts. They had like this toy room, and this lady showing me all these toys, and I'm like sick already. And she's like, look at all these toys, Tyler. You can play with any of them. You just gotta make sure that you sanitize your hands, and then you play with the toys, and you sanitize them again, and put them back. That sounds like a lot of work to play with stupid toys. So I'm just gonna stay in my room. This place, you couldn't walk down the hall without some sick kid in a big wheel just freaking cruising by with his IV stand wheeling next to him. It was nuts. It was like chaos. I just stayed in my room. Turns out there's like PlayStations in every room. So I'm playing Scooby-Doo, the Scooby-Doo video game, while I'm in the hospital. Every 2 days at that hospital, they would come and take my blood, which they were really good at it. There was one doctor, he's like, I bet you won't even feel it. And I was like, yeah, right. But he did it, took my blood. I didn't feel a thing. It was nuts. I've never had it not hurt like that before. But anyway, they did a ultrasound on me when I got there as well, and found out that nah, your heart's fine. But I was still happy to be there because they had really good staff and everything there. So I met a kid right next to me. A curtain separated us. This room was huge. It was like an L shape, and there was, man, I can't remember his name. It started with an M, I'm pretty sure. I wish I remembered it because we were pretty well acquainted while I was there, because I was there for like 5 days. I think I was in the hospital for 9 days total. And I remember meeting him and just realizing how much worse some people have it than me. Because I think he had an issue with his liver, or if it was his kidneys. I can't remember. But he was hooked up to multiple IVs. And I remember almost being scared of him the first time I saw him, because I had these little toys, and I had 2 of them. So I was going to give him one, but I remember just seeing how sick he was, and I don't know why, just as a child that was really scary. So I went up to him, gave him the thing without saying anything, backed away. And that was, I say well acquainted, but that was basically the extent of our relationship that I can remember. I was invested in his treatments and stuff, as I heard about them through his parents and everything, and I was worried about him. And after I got out of the hospital, we found out there was a website where you could keep up with certain patients, and we kept up with him for some time on that. And I guess he died a couple times on the operating table, but was able to be resuscitated. I don't know where he is now. I wish I could remember his name, but I hope everything's good with him. I hope he got what he needed. But I remember towards the end of the stay at the hospital, they were telling me 2 days, Tyler, and you can leave here. I said, that's great. So I remember when I was leaving, they gave us all this stuff, and again, it came down to one of those things like, oh, it's gonna be one more test before you leave, Tyler. Coffee pot's making a weird noise. Anyway, they wheeled me again into this room. This time this room was better. It was not nearly as bad as the other one. And this time it was weird though. Like, what movie do you want to watch? Tyler, do you want to watch Ninja Turtles? Or do you want to watch whatever this show is? I can't remember. I chose Ninja Turtles, but I didn't watch a second of it. This was not as bad as the needle thing, but it was still pretty bad because it was like, oh, I don't know, I just felt like a cyborg. They lay my arm out on this table, and I remember they cut into it. Like, I still have the scar. I don't know if you can see that at all, but there's a scar right here. And basically, they just cut into an artery, and they were just feeding this PICC line, as they called it, up my artery and into my heart. So it went from here down into here. And purpose of this was to supply medicine, I guess, to combat the staph infection or to clean up my blood. I have no idea. I was a kid. But it came in these little medicine balls. And I would like twist them onto this thing, and then it would go up there. I'd have to have it regularly cleaned. After I left the hospital, I was attached to this thing for 6 weeks, and I had to go to school still with it on there. It was terrible. I rode the bus to school one day, and there was this kid, was pretty much a troublemaker for most I know about him, and he says, "What's that on your arm?" And I said, "It's a medicine ball." And the thing about this thing was, if it got broken or anything, any air in your bloodstream is like, night night, you're dead. So it was very important that I kept it safe. And I told him that when he asked what it was. I said, it's a PICC line, but you can't touch it because if it breaks open, I'll die, like seriously. So what does he do? He starts smacking the thing. While I'm just a little kid on the bus, he's older than me. He starts smacking it. Because of him, I had to ride the like short bus. It was a van, but it was like the short bus. So I rode to school with some interesting characters for a while, all very nice, but I was very uncomfortable. And at least I was safe there, but I didn't want to ride that. I wanted to be on the regular bus, you know? And at that point, I couldn't go outside for recess or anything. I had to sit inside while this medicine bag was on me. And after all that passed and all that, I couldn't run, couldn't do any activities and stuff like that. So after all that, we had a nurse that would come to our house. And she came to our house for the last time. And today was the day that I was going to have my PICC line taken out. So she comes, I'm supposed to drink some warm liquids to like loosen my veins up or something. So I think I drank some hot chocolate. And she comes, lays my arm out, and she said, "You don't have to look if you want, but it shouldn't hurt. Just let me know if you feel anything." And so she untapes it, which, by the way, I had a really bad reaction to medical tape for some reason. It was very hard to get off my skin, and it hurt really, really bad. So getting the tape off my skin was a minutes long process of just like peeling slowly and rubbing alcohol on the tape as you pull, which still hurt. I had like a big red mark every time we'd have to change bandages. But anyway, she starts to pull this thing out. It didn't hurt at all. It was kind of weird to look at, just this freaking tube coming out of my arm. And then she gets it out. She looks at the end of it, and she's like, there's supposed to be a little black piece at the end here. And I was like, oh gosh, that's not good. Because she thought that it had fallen off in my heart, which I can't imagine that would have been a pleasant experience to get that taken out of my heart. So she calls the doctors that put the thing in, I guess. I don't know who she called. But she asked if there was supposed to be a thing. Luckily, they said no. Hopefully, they weren't lying, because I haven't gotten anything taken out of my heart since then. But I lived. I didn't think I was sick that much, but after I got out, I realized, like, wow, I could have died. They were literally watching me all night with cold washcloths on me to make sure my fever didn't rise to a deadly temperature. And did I learn any lessons from that? No. Oh, son of a gun. Los Angeles, California is calling me because I'm a YouTuber. What was I saying? They didn't, I haven't learned anything from this experience. What I got from it was a fear of doctors and dentists, and I think I became a hypochondriac after that. I just thought I was sick with everything, to the point where I would think that I would have like certain cancers and stuff, where I lied to my parents to be able to go to the doctor once. Not that they wouldn't have taken me, I just didn't want to tell them why I wanted to go to the doctor. And I remember as a kid thinking, this sucks, but at least when I'm out of here, like, everyone goes to the hospital for something really bad, like, once. And this is my time. Luckily, it happened when I was a child. When I'm older, I won't even remember it. And now I'm, like, older, and I should probably go to the doctor more, but I'm like, nah, I already had my time there, which isn't how it works. But anyway, that was my sick story, and sorry it's got to be unedited, but I work in like an hour and a half because I felt so gross last night. I just could not. I didn't want to get up. So sorry, this is what we get for our special 15th episode halfway through, but tomorrow we'll hopefully have a better video for the 16th episode. So thanks again for watching. Thanks for watching all the way up until now. If you have, even if you haven't, thanks for watching this one. I appreciate everyone watching and all the support and people sharing the videos. It's been really nice. You know, my videos have like peaks and valleys, which I assume everybody's does, but in the valleys, when people share this stuff, that's what creates the peaks and everything. So I really appreciate watching, sharing, even just the liking. Even just liking when I share it around is nice to see. So again, I appreciate it, and I'll see you tomorrow.